Jane wakes up at 6 a.m. so that she can catch up on emails. She also has to check whether her meeting that was scheduled for 10 a.m. was still happening then, or whether it had been moved to 9 a.m. as her colleague said might happen. If it starts at 9 a.m, she has to decide whether she prepares for the meeting or follows up on emails. She checks and the meeting has been moved to 9:30. Now she can do both. She can check emails and prepare for the meeting. Jane gets in the car and calls her boss. She wishes to touch base before the meeting, but her boss wants to talk to her about another meeting that she wants to schedule directly after, to talk about a completely different project. Jane's boss asks her to create a new folder on the system and upload all the required documentation so that the boss can review and think about next steps. Jane says she won't have time because of the back-to-back meetings, and her boss says, "Yes you can, you'll be at work at 9, that's half an hour." Her boss fails to comprehend the level of mental gymnastics Jane is already doing, and her workday hasn't even technically started yet. Jane doesn't push back on her boss because she's already on the mental hamster wheel and doesn't have the emotional or mental capacity to do that at this time. Jane gets to work and frantically puts a few things together. She zones out during the first meeting, thinking only about the new project she will be talking to her boss about after. After that second meeting, Jane sits at her desk. It's 1 p.m. and she still hasn't eaten breakfast. She is exhausted, but she needs to write down everything from the 2 meetings before she forgets. But she says to herself, let's just take a quick 5-minute break. So Jane goes on her phone and scrolls social media. An hour later, she breaks out of the spell and is completely depleted. She has her lunch, sits back at the desk. By the time she's mentally realised she's at work, it's 4 p.m. She now has an hour to get a day's worth of work done, so she tells herself she will put on a podcast to help her focus. Half an hour later, after checking her notifications, she finally opens a report template for the new project. Then, an email pops up in the corner of her screen, distracting her, and she opens her inbox. She sees an additional 20 emails from the day to respond to, and this new email in particular is requesting a meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So she stays back at work until 6:30 to prepare. When Jane finally gets home, she orders pizza and scrolls on her phone. She tells herself she should exercise, allowing the thought to stay in her mind, making her feel defeated and generate a sense of anxiety and decision fatigue before she finally succumbs to reality. She sits on the couch eating pizza with TV on in the background while scrolling on her phone until about 11:30 at night. She looks over at her to-do list, which includes washing her clothes, organising dinner with friends, and she remembers the 100 books that she's listed on her phone notes app that she wants to read. Jane thinks to herself, I'll start on all that tomorrow. And so the cycle continues. That is the epitome of hurry sickness.